Bought this VCR for, including shipping, $50 US. Found this TV for free by a dumpster. The VHS tapes mostly have come from thrift stores, and depending on the thrift store, have been priced between 5 tapes for $1 to $2 per tape. But I am not looking to start a giant collection of tapes. It's just hard to find 4x3 content digitally. So another way I'm solving this problem is by shooting my own on my 1988 Bazooka Cam. But would it not be easier to shoot digital footage and convert it to 4x3, or even, if I must, record the digital footage to tape, recapture it for a more authentic feel? Maybe. Possibly less fun doing it that way, but I'm not closed to any possibility. I'm only beginning the process of figuring out a strategy. The one good, reliable source of digital 4x3 content can be found in classic TV shows, and this show is my favorite. There's a more modern show that I would place above this, but as far as shows made in the 4x3 era, this is my absolute favorite, I guess, which is why it's not a good fit for what I'm doing. Because I'm chasing a more passive experience. There will be times I'll sit and watch and give my full attention, of course, but the vast majority of the time, I'd just like to have it on in the background. Because of the way it sounds and feels. The way it lights up a room. Like a candle kind of glowing and crackling and creating a mood. And I don't want to get sick of my favorite shows because they're playing non-stop in the background. This Raspberry Pi I've set up for retro gaming with a controller attached and a second one standing by in case the wife decides to join me. This one is set up as a media player with a traditional remote control. I've got it all running through this switcher, the 2 Raspberry Pis, and the VCR. So far I'm buying VHS tapes at thrift stores, anything that seems vaguely interesting. I'm prioritizing stuff I've never seen. I am, generally speaking, not buying movies that I already love, unless I have a strong memory of watching it a million times on VHS as a kid, because I'd rather watch my favorite movies in glorious 4K on a modern screen. One absolute treasure I found was this Ansel Adams documentary. I filmed myself watching it and giving my thoughts, which I mentioned because I might do something with that footage. And I might not. Knight Rider is not exactly a favorite show, no offense meant, but it is a show I loved as a kid that still gives me warm, fuzzy nostalgia tingles, and it's just exactly the kind of thing that makes sense to have playing in the background. Rygar here, the NES version, is a very good game. Not an absolute favorite, but it's a good game with lots of good memories attached. But again, I'd rather save my absolute favorites for special occasions. How long has it been since I played Metroid or Zelda? I mean, I hate to be all mainstream, but good lord did I love those games as a kid. So I don't want to just drop in for a few minutes treating them like they're disposable. I'd rather carve out some real time for those games, because that's how you treat a beloved old favorite. So most of my favorite movies I'd rather watch widescreen, high-res on a giant modern TV, except for those select few that I have watched hundreds of times as a kid, where the VHS-ness of the experience became part of my love for the film itself. It's a weird criterion to explain, but it makes perfect sense to me. So that is my sorting process. That is how I decide what to buy and what not to buy. I found this treasure online a few years ago, actually, at an archival site. I don't remember precisely where. But if we're similar at all in age, you might remember this series from school. Do I have any desire to carefully rewatch every one of these episodes and learn how to use a card catalog again? No, not particularly. So this is exactly the sort of thing that I can leave playing in the background to improve the mood of a room, and in turn, improve my mood. They were sadly all converted to pillar-boxed 16:9 files, so I had to crop them to restore the correct aspect ratio and recompress. This is an issue I'm running into a lot, actually. Sucks. In the course of roaming around with my VHS bazooka cam, I realized that maybe just bringing a chair, a tripod, and something to read, and filming entire sunrises, sunsets, or anything interesting, really, and creating huge hour-long clips. Hopefully my battery in my VHS camera will last that long, but that might be a great source of passive 4x3 content for my CRT. I haven't done anything like that yet, but I probably will. And if you can see the tiny car over on the right pulled over to the side of the road, that is where I'm flying from. I have 2 drones, and that was not the drone I wanted to have with me this morning, but I forgot to charge batteries. The DJI Flip, it absolutely struggled in the wind, and I was lucky to get it back a couple of times. One of the ways I used to annoy my parents was by filming the TV screen while displaying the image I was capturing live on that same TV screen. And when you do that, this is the result. I always thought it looked kind of interesting. And I used to take that footage and then sort of compose avant-garde guitar music on top of it. And stringing together a VCR and a camcorder was my first video editor, and I edited that way for years and years and years. I also figured out one day that I could sort of make an audio recording workstation that way, kind of multi-track. 2 tracks anyway. I think I still have some of those recordings. I'm sure they're terrible, but man, do I miss the days when every problem wasn't already solved for you in advance. That was an environment that bred pure creativity. If you wanted to do something slightly out of the ordinary, you had to devise your own ways of getting there. You'd have to work around extreme limitations, but those limitations would feed back into the creative process, and this new thing would emerge. And when it worked, you achieved a feeling that is simply not attainable today. This is a VHS recording recorded off Broadcast TV in 1987. It was the premiere of the first episode of Star Trek TNG, as we were watching it live, my parents and I, complete with commercials and all. And this is the very last episode of Star Trek TNG, live as we were watching it. I have maybe 60 to 70 hours of content like this, captured digitally, suitable for playing in the background mostly. The tapes themselves are long gone. What a cool show this was, The Highwayman. It got canceled, didn't even make it a full season, but I remember. Unlike a lot of contemporary shows, at least according to my memory, it had a cool premise and actually tried to deliver on that premise, rather than just sliding into generic 80s tropes. Not that I don't like 80s tropes. Hey, remember the original Emperor? I do, because this is the exact copy I watched 9,000 times as a kid. Also recorded off Broadcast TV. My parents bought a new video camera in 2001 or 2002, a mini DV camera, which looks both better and worse simultaneously. When I finally finished the giant project of capturing all our old family videos, and I mean making a new master, essentially, making the tape obsolete. Granted, I didn't want to dispose of the tapes, but I knew as the years passed, the tapes would just further deteriorate. But shouldn't be a problem if I preserve them well at the highest level of quality possible. Well, as it turns out, sadly, those tapes are also long gone. But that's okay, the videos themselves continue to live on, freed from their original medium. But my point is, at the time when I did all that work, capturing, tweaking, babysitting, doing multiple passes at different exposures, lots and lots of trial and error, sometimes capturing audio separately and syncing in post, I noticed and even reported to anyone interested that when I got to the mini DV years, the video suddenly looked better, sharper, cleaner, but also worse. Technically better, but artistically degraded, deteriorated. So I guess what I'm telling you is, I agree with myself. Quick trip back in time. The first video capture device I ever owned was in 1996. It sucked. Next was in 1999. Also not good enough. By 2001 though, the year this was filmed, I had a very credible video capture rig. The problem, however, was storage. It was still much too early to store gigantic uncompressed video files, but I backed up all our old family tapes just in case in DivX format, but they were not meant to be the new masters. They were just a backup. Video shot around this time, 2001, just before we switched to mini DV, I've noticed looks a little rough. Probably a low quality tape to begin with, which had likely been recorded over a bunch of times prior to recording this. Then of course, the years also can be unkind, because most of our tapes held up quite a bit better than this. Anyway, I don't care, it's equally precious to me, of course. And precisely because this is so precious to me, this will absolutely not serve as background ambiance. This is stuff I only look at very occasionally. So maybe this is the worst possible example of the entire reason I'm showing this, since it is a bit more degraded. But I wanted to be chronological about it. This is more or less the last family video shot on VHS in my family, mid-2001 probably. And this is the first shot on mini DV. See what I mean? It's better and it's worse at the same time. My mom painted that. It might even be in an unfinished state there. But the video is no less precious, of course. But as a medium, slight thumbs down to mini DV, looking back.
Wow, bago.
Nevertheless, I still enjoy it. So I bought the same model that my parents bought on eBay. My sleeping Molly cat. She lived another 10 years after this. Miss you, Molly. Miss you, Mom and Dad. I considered editing this entire video to tape from camcorder to camcorder, or from VCR to camcorder. I didn't though. My VHS camcorder is always the destination, never the source. That's the method I used as a kid, because the camcorder gives me much more precise control over exactly where on the tape I'm recording, more so than any VCR I've ever encountered. This person just killed someone who clearly wasn't there, so now I have to make them suffer. Speaking of things that annoyed my parents, violent video games. But they were great parents. They didn't try to stop me. They just let me know that they didn't like it. I, however, do. I'm completely blown away by the fact that people still play Doom. In my youth, I experienced countless hours of joy playing Doom. Solo, yes, but especially with friends. Pre-internet, mind you. I speak of carrying one's giant PC tower and CRT monitor over to someone's house. Soon after that, internet arrived, but Doom was sadly still not playable online. Connection methods built into the game were limited, but because of the availability of internet shortly thereafter, now everyone owned a modem, so you could connect via phone line. That became a pretty good option. How cool that 1, you can now play classic Doom online, and 2, that people are actually still playing it. It turns out pointing one's mini DV camera at a CRT gives one a similar result, but less beautiful, in my opinion, more obviously digital, and prehistoric digital at that. And by the way, that was actually Doom 2. The distinction, especially if you're not playing the classic maps, is kind of arbitrary, but no, original Doom didn't have the double-barreled shotgun. I am aware of that. And when I got together with friends, it was actually Doom 2 we were probably playing most of the time, because that was always my favorite gun. I think that was everyone's favorite gun. I had way too much crap with me today, including my stills camera, thus I shot some stills. Very, very few stills, but I shot some. And I shot the video of me shooting the stills on a more modern, but still consumer, memory card-based digital video camera. Because it was just too hard to do it with the mini DV camera. It's not wide enough, as it is. It's very awkward to get the stills camera in frame. The camcorder does support lens attachments, and I might get a wide lens attachment for that reason down the road. Because it would be fun to shoot photography videos with the mini DV camera. So most of the tapes I'm not keeping. Only my absolute favorites. Otherwise I'm capturing the contents digitally and redonating the tapes. One tape that I'm absolutely keeping is The Little Mermaid, the 1989 Disney version. It's an all-time favorite. Which, no, does not break my rule of not getting my favorite movies on VHS, because I have a strong VHS association with this particular movie. But look at all this crap they stuck on the tape before the movie. Clearly, this is not the original VHS release. 11 minutes of crap. And even more egregious, they changed the ending credits. They changed the music. They included this dumb music video with Jodie Benson lip-syncing over a song from the movie. And I like Jodie Benson very much, who did the voice of Ariel. But this is a travesty. So I'm going to fix it, restore it, and record it back to tape. I'm using the Blu-ray version, which contains a much wider presentation of the film, so I have it sitting on top of the VHS version to try to match the framing to create my own pan and scan copy. I found myself disagreeing with some of the original cropping decisions, so I didn't necessarily follow them, but it was much more involved than I expected. Firstly, I have to break the video up into every individual shot because the framing needs to change a lot more than I expected shot to shot, but also the framing needs to change a lot mid-shot. And see that I didn't follow the birds back to the right. I'd need to fix that. Just a giant pain. It would be one thing if I were getting paid if this were my job, but I don't think I'm going to be doing much of this after all. This sucks. I mean, I would go through the trouble for my own creation, but not for a commercial film. I'm not passionate enough about any movie to sit there doing this. This shot was pretty easy until the ship started to pass by. I wanted to pan more to the right, but couldn't because then the dolphin pops up on the left. Anyway, screw this. I'm going to stick with the version I have. Maybe I could just edit the VHS capture, throw the original credits back on at the end, and record it back to tape. That's certainly not going to look as good as using the Blu-ray as the master, but it might be an acceptable compromise. So looking back at the potential 4x3 content sources we've identified, creating my own pan and scans from widescreen versions of films, that's out. But classic TV shows, digital files, that's a great source. Going out and shooting my own stuff, another great source. Buying VHS tapes at thrift stores, a very, very, very good source of 4x3 content. What other sources are there? I'm not sure. This is enough to keep me busy, though, for a while. My ultimate goal, once I've collected a lot of content, is to build some kind of fake old broadcast TV clone, complete with different fake channels playing different shows. I'd like it also if I could select a year and then have it play period-correct shows and commercials on the various different fake channels. I think I'm a long way off from that, but that's okay. I'm having fun anyway. Interestingly, the mini DV camera is small enough to put on a gimbal, which I played around with a bit. Also, and this pertains more to VHS, I finally solved the problem of high-quality tapeless capture, and with a not very expensive setup, $100 US or so. But it still sucks, and I want to talk about this in more detail in the future, but to kind of spoil the conclusion of that video, just shoot to tape. It's more fun and it looks more authentic. The mini DV camera has incredible zoom and autofocus, and it looks absolutely great on a CRT, much better than on a modern screen. That goes for everything that was created for a CRT. You're just not seeing it correctly if you're looking at it on a modern screen. But man, I prefer the look of VHS. It's not even close. So a few of the absolute treasures I've found on VHS so far include this 1975 Japanese version of The Little Mermaid. I think I like it even more than the Disney version, which is strange. Star Trek 4 I must have watched 900 times as a kid on VHS, and it's still just as great as ever. This Ansel Adams documentary I mentioned before, I found it genuinely moving. That movie Witness that I showed earlier too, that's a definite keeper. But the search continues. And it's absolutely true. Things created for a CRT really do look better on a CRT. From VHS recordings, mini DV recordings, to classic TV shows, retro games. It all just pops on a CRT. I mean, truly it does, in a way that simply cannot be demonstrated in a video. Whatever character those mini DV recordings lack, somehow the CRT gives them their character back. And there are problems I've yet to solve, problems I may never solve, but it's all part of the analog experience, and I love it.